Thermopolis, Wyoming. It was a great relief to get to Thermopolis and have a real home. I was tired of the grind. I wasn't that old, but the road had taken a bigger toll on me than I could have ever known. I was a fun-loving drunk with a dream, and no matter what I did, there was an underlying depression that surfaced every time I drank. It was a depression that I didn't recognize. I wasn't even aware that it existed. I had a desire and a gift so strong that they covered up everything. We slept in the RV trailer the first couple of days while we unloaded the van. The house had no furniture, so it was easy. My stuff went into my room and Gene's went into his, and we unbolted two of the captain's chairs in the back of the van and put them in the living room. Big Gene's big orange toolbox set between them as a coffee table. We took empty liquor boxes and stacked them against the wall and put Gene's TV and VCR on them for a TV stand. Black and white, of course. We rolled the bedding out on the bedroom floors and made comfortable pallets to sleep on. I drove into town to a used furniture store and bought a couple of old lamps and end tables, a shelf, and an old table with 4 chairs. We were set. Gary Anderson came by to visit 2 or 3 times a week, and a young fellow named Mickey, who lived around the corner, would stop in for coffee now and again. We didn't know anyone else, so we rested and played house. 2 old, wandering bachelors trying to create something that resembled a home. It wasn't much, but it worked just fine. Debbie had bought that $12,000 house, and we paid to get the utilities turned on. It didn't cost much, but we didn't have much money left after the trip anyway. I finally decided it was time to go look for places to sing. Gary had given me a list of small clubs in Cody, Riverton, Jackson Hole, and Gray Bull. The Meadowlark Resort wanted me back up on Ten Sleep Pass, and there was always a Holiday Inn in the Hot Springs Park owned by a rich man, and he had been asking Gary about me. It was time to get out and circulate. By the time I hit the road in the old van, it was the beginning of May. I had performed one night at the Holiday Inn and met a lot of people in town. I had a couple of one-night gigs booked at the Meadowlark Resort coming up and decided to go to Jackson Hole and look for bars, and then through the Teton and Yellowstone National Parks to Cody and look for more places to sing. With any luck at all, I could get the summer bookings outlined on a calendar, enough to keep us alive. I pulled out of Thermopolis with about $150 and headed down the Wind River Canyon to Shoshone, and then to Riverton. God, it was gorgeous. I couldn't believe the awe-inspiring power of that part of the West. Every turn in the road brought another breathtaking view, and I began to realize how small we really are. It was vast, lonely, and cold, and the beauty was indescribable. 3,000-foot rock walls and clear rivers and herds of antelope, small western towns 100 miles apart, towns with populations of 12 or 300. No fences or buildings in between. It rolls on forever and never stops, just like the highway, just like your mind. I never understood a person who said they weren't thinking of anything. For me, it's impossible. My mind never takes a break. I wonder if it stops when you die or if it just rolls on forever like the highways of Wyoming, one beautiful, lonely view after another. My heart and music have always been that way too. Just when you think you are so in love that you could just live in that ecstasy forever, it falls apart. Just when you think you've written the most beautiful love song in the world, you write another. That's Wyoming. I landed work in a place called Spirits of the West in Jackson Hole, the Proud Cut Saloon in Cody, Meadowlark Resort in the Bighorn Mountains on Ten Sleep Pass, a small bar in Riverton on Main Street, a small bar near Sheridan, a place called Dad's in Thane, Wyoming, and eventually the Rancher Bar in Jackson Hole. I made barely enough to buy food, generic cigarettes, and generic Metamucil. I couldn't make the payment on the house or the utilities. I drove forever in that state until I was worn out and depressed. The bars didn't pay any more than $50 to $75 a night, no hotel room, and no food. The people were cold and only wanted two-stepping commercial country FM dance music. No one wanted to sit down and listen to a troubadour talk about love and dreams and sunrises and sunsets, drugs and whiskey, sex and the highway. My brand of entertainment did not sell in Wyoming. My humor was totally lost like a feather in the wind. Here I was with everything I had on the proverbial line. I had kissed everybody goodbye in the East, all the bars, all the women, all the babies. I wrote a lot. I started writing about life without love, beauty without vision, fear without a lifeline. I thought about driving down into Colorado and looking for bars. It was too far away. I wanted to be home. Every day it became clear that this had not been a sane idea. By August, Big Gene's son, Little Gene, was on his way by bus to Thermopolis from Pottstown, Pennsylvania. Now there would be 3 mouths to feed, 3 showers to take, 3 loads of dirty laundry, and 3 moods in one small house to live with. I had no idea what a winter in Wyoming would be like. I'd heard stories, and I knew what cold and no heat was all about, but frozen pipes and broken furnace was all new material for me. As fall came on, work slowed down. Pay dropped. Moods at home became consistently crankier. I was not equipped to deal with a 15-year-old bull-headed, law-breaking teenager who could power lift 400 pounds at the gym. I started staying out on the road looking for winter work, very unsuccessfully. By September 12th, it snowed 3 feet in the Bighorns. I was on the road in the middle of it, and it was cold. One night, while I was singing high on Shell Creek Pass, a blizzard set in. I was sleeping in the van every night. It got down to 20 degrees below zero. I had a show 2 days into the storm down the other side, the east side of the Bighorns, in Sheridan. I knew I needed to get off that mountain as quickly as possible. I woke up at about 8 a.m. in my van in front of the resort bar and went in for breakfast. My van was covered with 3 foot of snow. It was about 17 degrees below zero, real temperature, not wind chill. I thawed out next to a pellet stove and ate breakfast, and then I went out and got my broom and my snow shovel that I always carry and uncovered the van and fired it up. I started up the truck, and it took about an hour before the temperature gauge even moved. I filled it with gas and poured in 2 cans of gasoline antifreeze, and then I took off across the top of the mountain. There was an inch of ice under 3 foot of snow, and my heater vent was blowing frozen air. I drove very slowly and finally made it to the east side of the mountain and started down 8,000 feet of switchback roads in low gear. The first corner I came to at 10 miles an hour, my van slid off the road, went downhill for about 50 yards, throwing snow and tipping over on its side. It was buried on its right side with me in it. I pushed the driver's door up. It was very heavy, but I got it up and open and crawled out and came down in a drift that was chest high. I started crawling up that 50 yards of snow toward the road. It was cold, and I was going to need help. The van had warmed up before the slide, and I had pulled off my heavy parka and gloves, and I had on long johns Levi's, a hooded sweatshirt, a flannel western shirt, and cowboy boots. My gloves, parka, stocking hat were buried under the PA system in the van. I had on my cowboy hat, and my fingers and ears were starting to ache. By the time I got up to the road, I was sweating, and that's not good. My clothes were wet from the inside out, and the daylight was fast dwindling away, and the night temperature was dropping. I was going to be in a lot of trouble if no one was traveling on this road.